The storm came without warning that night. The wind howled through the trees, and rain slammed against the windows of Ethan's small wooden house. The power went out at exactly 11:47 p.m., cutting off the sound of his old radio mid-song. Darkness swallowed everything. Ethan lay in bed, half awake, listening to the strange silence that followed the thunder. Then he heard a soft creak from the floorboards near his window. At first, he thought it was the storm playing tricks on him. But then a new sound came. Slow, careful footsteps. Someone or something was inside his room. Ethan held his breath. His heart pounded so hard he thought it might give him away. The air turned colder, heavier, as if the night itself was holding its breath with him. He tried to move, but his body froze. That's when he felt something warm pressed against his chest. A weight, light but real, as if a person had climbed onto him. His eyes were wide open, but he saw nothing. Just darkness. Then, a whisper brushed against his ear, soft and trembling. It was not a voice he knew. "Please, help me." Ethan's blood ran cold. The voice was female, but it carried a strange echo, like two people speaking at once. He couldn't see her, but the air smelled faintly of metal and rain. The weight on his chest shifted. He wanted to scream, but fear locked his throat. "Who are you?" he whispered, barely moving his lips. The whisper came again, this time closer. "Don't move. They can't find me if you stay still." He froze. The words made no sense, but the terror in her voice was real. His room was dark except for faint flashes of lightning sneaking through the cracks of the curtains. For a moment, the light revealed something. A shape crouched above him. It wasn't entirely human. Its skin shimmered like liquid glass, and its eyes glowed faintly blue. Then darkness swallowed it again. Ethan's breath caught. His mind screamed that it was a dream, a nightmare born from exhaustion. But the warmth on his chest, the soft hum in the air, it all felt real. He wanted to ask more, but the voice whispered again, urgent now. "They're close. Please, stay still. Don't let them hear you." The room filled with a low humming sound, deep and vibrating, as if the walls themselves were alive. Ethan could feel it in his bones. The windows rattled, and for a split second, a bright light flashed outside, white, sharp, and soundless. The air smelled like burned metal. Then everything went quiet again. He blinked. The weight on his chest was gone. The hum faded. Only the rain remained, tapping softly against the glass. Ethan sat up slowly. His heart hammered in his chest. The room was empty. No sign of anyone or anything. He turned on his flashlight and swept it across the room. The chair by the window was tipped over. The curtain was half torn. And on the wooden floor, right where the figure had been standing, there was a mark. It looked like a small handprint, but not quite human. The fingers were too long, and the shape glowed faintly blue, pulsing once before fading into the wood. Ethan rubbed his eyes. "This isn't real," he muttered. "I'm dreaming." He forced himself to stand, still shaking. Every sound in the house felt louder now: the ticking of the clock, the wind, the creak of the floorboards under his bare feet. He checked every corner, every room. The doors were locked. The windows were shut. Nothing was out of place except that mark. He sat back on his bed, heart still racing. He told himself to forget it, to sleep, to explain it in the morning. But the words she'd said wouldn't leave his mind. "They can't find me if you stay still." Who was she? What did she mean? Hours passed before exhaustion finally pulled him into uneasy sleep. But even then, his dreams were filled with flashes of light and whispers that spoke his name. When morning came, sunlight spilled across the floor, warm and bright. The house looked normal again. But when Ethan went to the mirror to wash his face, his reflection stopped him cold. There, on his chest, just over his heart, were faint blue lines, 5 of them, arranged in a circle like the tips of fingers. They weren't bruises or scratches. They were glowing. Softly, he touched them. They were warm. Ethan stumbled back, fear flooding his body. He looked around, half expecting the figure to appear again. The house was silent, but something in him knew the night visitor hadn't been a dream. And deep down, under the fear, a strange thought crept in. What if she hadn't hurt him? What if she really did need help? Outside, the sky was clear, but the air felt heavy, charged. When Ethan stepped out onto the porch, he heard it again, a low hum coming from somewhere far away. The same hum from the night before. He turned toward the woods. The sound was coming from their dot, and though every part of him said to stay away, his feet began to move on their own, step by step, toward the sound, toward whatever waited for him in the trees. Ethan woke with a start, gasping for air. Sunlight streamed through the cracked curtains, to bright, to normal, as if the night before had never happened. For a moment, he sat still, trying to remember the dream, if it had been a dream. But when he looked down, the truth stared back at him. The faint blue marks were still on his chest. They glowed softly, like embers under skin. He rubbed them hard, hoping they would fade, but the glow only deepened before slowly dimming again. As if alive, his stomach twisted. He pulled on a shirt, grabbed his phone, and tried to record them, but on camera, there was nothing. Just his pale skin. No glow, no strange symbols. That only made it worse, okay? Calm down, he muttered, pacing his room. You're not crazy. You're not crazy. But he didn't feel sane either. Every sound made him flinch. The hum of the refrigerator, the creak of the porch, even the ticking of the wall clock. The world felt different. At breakfast, he barely touched his food. The radio, now working again after the storm, crackled with static between songs. Then, through the fuzz, a strange tone emerged, a low hum that made the hair on his arms rise. It was the same sound from the night before. Ethan froze. He turned the dial slowly. The hum didn't vanish. It grew louder, sharper, until the speakers popped with static. The smell of metal filled the air. He switched the radio off, heart pounding. The silence that followed was worse. He looked outside. The neighborhood was quiet, wet from last night's rain. The world seemed ordinary, but the air felt charged heavy. Across the street, Mrs. Bennett watered her plants like nothing was wrong. A dog barked in the distance. Everything was fine. Except inside him, nothing was fine. Ethan decided to go to work. Maybe normal routine would calm him, but the moment he stepped out, a faint vibration started in his chest, right where the marks were. It wasn't painful, just strange, like a pulse that wasn't his own. Every time he got close to an electric line or a running car, the glow beneath his shirt flickered faintly. At work, it got worse. He was an auto technician at a small garage near the edge of town. The moment he stepped inside, surrounded by humming machinery and metal tools, the pulse on his chest grew stronger. He could almost feel the current in the air. His co-worker, Jake, waved at him. You look like hell, man. You okay? Ethan tried to smile. Didn't sleep much. Yeah, that storm was wild. Knocked out power for half the town. Some folks said they saw lights over the woods. UFO stuff. Crazy, huh? Jake laughed. Ethan forced a laugh too, but his blood ran cold. Lights over the woods. By midday, the hum inside his body had become unbearable. He made an excuse to leave early. The moment he stepped out of the garage, the pressure eased. It was like stepping out of a suffocating room into open air. On his way home, dark clouds gathered again over the hills. The wind picked up, sharp and cold. He felt watched. Every time he looked back, the street was empty, but the feeling never left. When he reached home, something strange waited for him. The front door was slightly open. He froze. He was sure he had locked it. He stepped inside carefully, heart thundering. The air smelled faintly sweet, like wet soil and ozone. His flashlight flickered as he moved through the living room. Nothing seemed stolen, nothing out of place, until he reached the laundry room. The washing machine was running, but he hadn't turned it on. He lifted the lid. Inside was just water, no clothes. The water glowed faintly blue. Then, behind him, a whisper, soft, trembling, familiar. You came back. Ethan spun around. She was there, half hidden in the shadows, crouched by the doorway. The same strange shimmer covered her skin, faint but alive, like moonlight trapped in water. His breath caught. What are you? Her eyes flicked up to his, large, luminous. Not quite human, but full of something that felt like pain. Not what you think. I didn't mean to frighten you. He stammered. You were in my house last night. You touched me. I had to, she said quietly. It was the only way to speak to you. They would have tracked me otherwise. Tracked you? Who's they? She looked toward the window, as if afraid to say. "You wouldn't believe me. Try me," he said, voice trembling. She hesitated, then whispered, "I'm not from here. I was hiding when the storm came." The light. It was a signal, not lightning. Something woke up beneath the radio tower. If it keeps growing, it will consume everything around it. Ethan stared at her. "You expect me to believe that?" Her hand rose, slow and uncertain. The air around her fingers shimmered. A drop of water lifted from the washing machine hung in the air, twisting and folding like it had a mind of its own. Then it turned into light and vanished. Ethan stepped back, breath shaking. What did you just do?" "I showed you proof," she said softly. "The marks on your skin, they're not a curse. They're coordinates." Coordinates. They lead to the tower. You were chosen because your heart can hold the pattern. That's why I touched you. That's why I need your help. The words hung in the air. Ethan wanted to laugh, to deny everything, but deep inside he knew the truth. The marks, the hum, the lights, they were all connected. She stepped closer. "If we don't stop it, your world will end the way mine did." A sudden gust of wind slammed the window open, scattering papers across the floor. The hum returned, louder than before, vibrating through the walls. Ethan's flashlight flickered out. In the darkness, her eyes glowed faintly blue. "Please," she whispered, "before it's too late." And in that moment, with the storm rising again outside and fear crawling down his spine, Ethan knew his life would never be normal again. The rain had started again by evening. Gentle at first, then heavy enough to blur the streetlights outside Ethan's window. He hadn't left the house since the encounter in the laundry room. Every sound made him jump, every gust of wind, every crack of thunder. But more than fear, there was a feeling growing in his chest that he couldn't explain, something between curiosity and dread. The glowing marks on his skin had changed overnight. The lines had spread outward, forming small circular patterns that pulsed with faint light whenever he touched them. He'd tried covering them with bandages, even smearing mud to hide the glow, but it made no difference. Whatever was happening, it was alive, inside him. He sat on the couch, the visitor's words echoing in his mind. "The marks are coordinates. You were chosen because your heart can hold the pattern." He didn't want to believe it, but he couldn't forget what he had seen, water floating like it was alive, turning into light, and the fear in her voice when she said the world could end. Ethan had told himself he'd imagined it all, but he hadn't slept. And when the clock struck midnight, the hum returned. It began softly, a low vibration in his bones. Then the radio turned on by itself, static, then a faint voice, "Ethan." He froze. It was her voice. "Come to the lake," she said, the words broken by static. "You need to see it with your own eyes." The signal cut off. The radio went dead again. He stood there for a long moment, staring at the silent radio, heart pounding. Then, against all logic, he grabbed his flashlight and jacket. The fear of staying was somehow worse than the fear of going. The path to the lake was a winding dirt road through the woods. The rain made it slippery, and fog hung low over the trees. Every step echoed in the stillness. Somewhere in the distance, something moved, maybe an animal, maybe not. When he reached the lake, the air changed. It felt thicker, humming like electricity. The surface of the water rippled, though there was no wind. And then, across the lake, he saw her. She stood at the edge, her silver blue skin glowing faintly under the rain. Her long, translucent hair clung to her shoulders. She looked up as he approached, eyes reflecting the light of the moon. "I didn't think you'd come," she said softly. "I almost didn't," Ethan replied, his voice low. "You said I needed to see something." She nodded. "Yes, proof. You humans believe what you can see. So, see." She stepped closer to the water and raised her hand. The surface of the lake trembled. Then, slowly, the water began to rise, not as waves, but as strands thin, shimmering ribbons that lifted into the air and swirled around them like smoke. Ethan's mouth fell open. The strands of water twisted into shapes, circles, lines, and symbols, glowing faint blue. They matched the patterns on his skin. "It's the same," he whispered. She nodded. "They marked you because you can carry it. The pattern connects you to the signal buried under the old tower." "What signal?" he asked, stepping closer. "The one that killed my people," she said. her voice heavy with sorrow. "It sleeps beneath your tower now, feeding on your machines. When it wakes, it will erase what it cannot control. That's what it does. It consumes order and leaves silence behind." Ethan felt cold inside. "Why me?" "Because you were close when the storm came," she said. "And because you didn't run." The words hit him hard. He remembered that moment in the dark, frozen with fear, unable to move. He hadn't run because he couldn't. "What do you want from me?" he asked quietly. "I need you to help me stop it," she said. "I can't touch the signal again. Not directly. It would destroy me. But through you, we might have a chance." Ethan's mind spun. This was madness, a story out of science fiction. And yet, everything in front of him was real. The water still floated in glowing patterns around them. The marks on his chest were warm, pulsing with every heartbeat. Before he could speak, she turned toward the lake again. "Listen," she whispered. The water began to hum, a deep, layered sound that wasn't quite natural. Then, beneath it, Ethan heard something else, faint cries, human voices, dozens of them, distorted, echoing from below the surface. He stumbled back. "What is that?" "They are trapped," she said softly. "The ones who touched the signal before me. It keeps what it takes, memories, minds, lives." Ethan felt sick. He wanted to run, but her voice held him there. "If we don't stop it," she continued, "your world will drown in its own silence." He shook his head. "How do I even help you? I don't know what any of this means." "You don't have to understand," she said. "You just have to trust me." He looked into her eyes, deep, shimmering, filled with fear and something else, hope. For a moment, the world around them was completely silent, except for the rain. Then she reached out and placed her hand over his chest. The marks flared with light. Ethan gasped as images flooded his mind, flashes of stars, storms, strange worlds of light and sound, towers that reached into space, and then destruction, endless, bright, and cold. He fell to his knees, gasping. She stepped back, breathing heavily. "Now you see," she said softly. "It's not a story. It's real." Ethan clutched his chest, trembling. The glow faded, leaving behind a faint warmth. His mind buzzed with echoes of things he couldn't name. "What do I do now?" he asked. She looked at him with quiet sadness. "Tomorrow night, we go to the tower. The one on the hill?" "Yes, that's where the signal sleeps." Ethan swallowed hard. "And if we fail?" Her eyes dimmed. "Then you'll never wake again." The rain fell harder, washing over them. Ethan looked at the lake, calm now, silent as glass. The floating patterns had disappeared. But when he looked down, the marks on his chest glowed brighter than ever, pulsing in time, with the faint hum still echoing in his bones. And deep in that hum, if he listened closely enough, he could still hear her whisper, not through sound, but through something deeper. "Trust me." The forest swallowed all sound as Ethan and the strange visitor made their way through the night. The moon hung low behind the clouds, and the old radio tower blinked faint red light through the mist, slow, steady, like a heartbeat. Each flash seemed to echo inside his chest where the glowing marks still pulsed beneath his shirt. He had told no one where he was going. Not his sister, not his co-workers. No one would have believed him anyway. He barely believed it himself, even as the proof burned under his skin. The visitor walked ahead of him, her bare feet silent on the wet ground. The faint light that came from her body flickered softly between the trees. She moved with the calm of someone who had done this before, though her eyes carried the weight of memories far older than anything human. Ethan's voice broke the silence. "What exactly are we going to find in there?" She didn't look back. "Not what you expect. That's not an answer. It's the only one I can give you," she said. "The signal is buried beneath the tower, in a shell built by your people long before they knew what they were touching. The storm woke it. It feeds on energy now, on patterns, on memory." Her words made his stomach twist. "Memory," she nodded. "It consumes what makes a world alive. It takes and keeps." Lightning flashed, revealing the tower's shape in full, rusted metal, crooked from years of storms, wrapped in cables that hummed faintly. The sound wasn't natural. It was the same low vibration that had followed him since the night she appeared. As they drew closer, the hum deepened. The air around the tower shimmered, bending light in small ripples. Ethan felt it in his bones, like static building under his skin. His chest burned faintly, the marks reacting. "Stop," she whispered. "Don't touch the ground too quickly." "Why?" She crouched and brushed her fingers against the earth. Tiny sparks of blue light burst beneath her touch. "It's awake. The soil remembers every vibration from the signal. Step wrong, and it will feel you." Ethan took a careful breath. "So how do we get in?" She pointed toward the base of the tower, where a slab of concrete had cracked open. Weeds grew through the gap, and rainwater glistened in the dark. "Through there," she said. They crawled into the narrow opening, the air growing colder with each step. It smelled like metal and damp stone. The passage led downward, deeper than Ethan thought possible. When they finally reached the end, they stepped into a space that shouldn't have existed. It was a chamber, circular, enormous, humming with life. The walls were covered in symbols that pulsed like veins of light. At the center stood a tall machine, half buried in the floor. Its surface glowed faintly, shifting between blue and gold. Ethan stared in awe. "What is that?" "The core," she said quietly. "It's not human-made. Your people found it a century ago when they built this tower. They thought it was part of the Earth's magnetic field. But it isn't. It's alive, in a way. It listens. And when it listens too long, it begins to change what it hears." Ethan stepped closer, drawn by the faint hum. "This thing, it's been under us all this time?" "Yes," she said. Silent, waiting. The marks on his skin began to throb in rhythm with the hum. He pressed a hand against his chest. "It's reacting to me. That's because it knows you now," she said. "It remembers your touch from the storm. It marked you to guide me back here." "Guide you?" She hesitated. "When the storm struck, I was trying to shut it down from above, but I couldn't reach the core. I fell through the current, through your power lines, into your world. The signal pulled me here, and when I found you, it had already chosen you as the vessel." Ethan felt a shiver run through him. "Vessel, you hold the pattern, the code that can silence it," she said. "But only if you finish the connection." He stared at her, eyes wide. "You want me to connect to that thing? You said it consumes memory." Her gaze softened. "I won't let it take you. Not if I can stop it." Before he could answer, a sharp sound broke the air, like static cracking through the walls. The tower above them began to vibrate. Dust fell from the ceiling. The hum grew louder, almost angry. "They've found us," she said. "Who?" "The collectors." Fragments of the signal itself. Shapes began to form along the walls, silhouettes of light, twisting and bending, pulling themselves free from the stone. They had no faces, only glowing outlines that flickered like lightning. Ethan backed away. "What are those?" "They are echoes," she said. "The memories it kept." The figures moved closer, soundless, their bodies rippling with static. The visitor raised her hand, and light burst from her palm, forming a barrier of shimmering energy around them. The figures slammed against it, hissing like fire meeting water. "Ethan," she shouted. "The marks. Focus on them. Feel the rhythm." He closed his eyes, heart pounding. The marks burned, not with pain, but with a pulse that matched the tower's hum. The sound grew until it filled his head, a deep, powerful vibration that made the world tremble. Then, all at once, it stopped. The chamber went silent. The figures froze, their light dimming. Ethan opened his eyes. The core at the center of the room had changed color, from blue to white. Its hum was now soft, like distant wind. The visitor lowered her hand. "You did it," she whispered. "It's listening to you now." He looked at her, breathless. "What does that mean?" "It means it knows who you are, and it won't stop until you finish what it started." Before Ethan could respond, one of the walls began to crack open, revealing a staircase spiraling deeper into the earth. A cold, metallic wind rushed out, carrying with it the same faint whisper that had woken him that first night. "Ethan." The voice said from below, familiar but twisted. His stomach dropped. "That's my voice." The visitor looked at him with sorrow. "No," she said softly. "That's what the signal made of you." Ethan took a step back, but the marks on his chest flared again, brighter than ever. The stairs pulsed with light, calling him forward. The visitor grabbed his arm. "We go down together. That's where the truth waits." Ethan nodded, even as fear clenched his throat, and together, they began to descend, deeper into the earth. toward the heart of the tower and the thing that carried his echo. Asterisk rain hammered the roof of the world above as Ethan and the visitor descended deeper into the earth. The staircase spiraled endlessly, its walls alive with faint pulses of blue and white light, like veins beneath transparent skin. Each step echoed, swallowed by the hum that never truly stopped. It just changed pitch. As if breathing, Ethan's chest throbbed in time with it. The marks glowed brighter with every step, and a low vibration filled his bones. The deeper they went, the stronger it became. It wasn't just sound anymore. It was alive. How much further? He asked, his voice trembling. The visitor glanced back at him. Until it speaks, Ethan frowned. It already has, not the echoes, she said quietly. The heart of the signal, the part that remembers everything it has taken. They reached a landing where the stairway split into two tunnels, one narrow and dark, the other glowing faintly from within. The visitor turned toward the light, but Ethan stopped. From the darker tunnel came a sound, a human voice. Ethan? He froze. It was his sister's voice. Help me, it said again, softer now, broken. Ethan, please. He turned toward it, heart pounding. Maya, the visitor caught his wrist. No, don't listen, that's my sister. It's not, she said, her tone sharp now. It's what the signal does. It uses what you love to pull you closer. But the voice came again, louder this time, trembling, crying. Please, Ethan, I'm scared. It's dark. I can't find you. Ethan's throat tightened. She sounds real. The visitor's eyes softened. That's how it works. The signal steals memory and emotion. It wears them like masks. He looked between the tunnels, torn. Every instinct screamed that he couldn't leave his sister's voice behind. But something in the visitor's calm certainty made him hesitate. Then, from the glowing tunnel, came another sound, a faint metallic click. Like a door unlocking. The visitor's expression darkened. Someone's here. Before Ethan could ask who, a harsh beam of light cut through the tunnel. He squinted. Voices followed, human voices this time, hands where we can see them. Ethan turned, stunned. 3 figures stepped into the passage, flashlights raised, wearing dark jackets with security patches. The lead man's voice was rough. Ethan Cole. Ethan blinked. How do you know my name? Your friend Jake called us, the man said. Said you were having some kind of breakdown. That you disappeared with someone. His beam of light shifted to the visitor. Guess he wasn't lying. The visitor flinched, her glow dimming. You shouldn't be here, she said softly. The man laughed. Lady, we got a call about a possible cult ritual in a restricted zone. You two are trespassing. Ethan raised his hands. Listen to me, you don't understand. Something's under this tower. But before he could finish, the ground beneath them shuddered. The walls flickered, humming louder. The light beams from the flashlights bent, literally bent, curving in strange directions as the air shimmered. What the hell? One of the men muttered. The visitor's eyes widened. It's reacting to their power cells. Ethan turned to her. You mean their radios? She nodded. The signal feeds on frequency. They've just woken it. The tunnel exploded with sound. A deafening roar like static turned to thunder. The lights went out. The only glow came from the marks on Ethan's chest and the visitor's trembling skin. When the hum finally faded, 2 of the men were gone. Only the leader remained, crouched and trembling. His radio melted into his jacket. He looked up at Ethan, eyes wild. What is she? She's trying to stop it, Ethan said, though his own voice shook. You have to leave. The man staggered back. You're both insane. He raised a small handgun, pointing it at the visitor. Don't. Ethan shouted. But the man fired. The sound echoed like lightning in a cave. The bullet never reached her. It stopped midair, suspended, twisting until it dissolved into light. The visitor looked at the man with sorrow, not anger. I warned you, she whispered. The air around him shimmered. The hum rose again, softer this time, almost like a song. His body froze, his eyes glassy, and then, slowly, he vanished into thin air, leaving only his flashlight behind. Ethan stared at the empty space, shaking. You killed him. I set him free, she said. The signal would have taken him anyway. I gave him peace instead. He backed away, horrified. Peace? You just erased him. Her expression fell. I'm trying to save you, Ethan. I don't want you to end up like them. The words struck deep. He looked down at his chest, the marks glowing brighter now, pulsing faster. What's happening to me? The signal is binding to you, she said quietly. When I touched you, I shared part of myself with you, memory, language, protection. But it also allowed the signal to see you. You're the link now. The map. Ethan's heart raced. You used me. No, she said quickly. I needed you. I can't shut it down alone. But Ethan could barely hear her. He pressed his hands over his chest, feeling the heat beneath his skin. The hum was no longer around him. It was inside him. She reached for him, but he pulled away. You didn't tell me everything. I couldn't, she whispered. If I had, you would have run, and I would have lost the only chance we have left. Her voice cracked on the last word. For the first time, she looked afraid, not of the signal, but of him. The tunnel around them began to tremble again, cracks forming in the glowing walls. The hum was louder than ever, almost screaming now. Ethan took a step back. I don't know if I can trust you. You have to, she said desperately. We don't have time. If we don't finish the pattern, everything ends. Then tell me the truth, he said. What are you really? She looked at him, eyes shining with light and sorrow. I am the last memory of a world the signal destroyed. I exist only because I refuse to forget. Thunder rumbled above, shaking the ground. Ethan looked up, realizing the hum was spreading through the tower again. The storm had returned. The visitor took his hand. If we go now, we can still reach the heart before it wakes. He hesitated, torn between fear and something he couldn't name. Then he nodded. Let's finish this. As they ran toward the glowing tunnel, lightning cracked through the chamber walls, and the hum rose to a fever pitch. Behind them, the shadows began to move, shapes forming out of the light, human and not. Ethan didn't look back. He just ran into the storm, unaware that their betrayal hadn't come from her, but from what waited inside him. The wind screamed through the cracks of the tower as Ethan and the visitor climbed the final stairway to the heart of the structure. Lightning flashed through the gaps in the metal, turning everything into sharp white for a heartbeat at a time. The hum that had haunted him for days now pulsed like a living thing, echoing inside his chest, inside his bones. It wasn't just sound anymore. It was thought. The higher they went, the more the tower seemed to resist them. The metal trembled under their hands, cables twisting like veins. Ethan could feel the pull of the signal growing stronger. The marks on his chest burned, spreading heat up his throat and down his arms. Almost there, the visitor whispered. Her voice was soft but unsteady. She was weakening. The light that once glowed bright in her skin now flickered like a dying flame. Ethan grabbed her arm, helping her climb the last few steps. You're fading. I gave too much to shield us, she said, breathing hard. The closer we get, the less I can hide from it. They reached a metal door at the top. It was half open, creaking in the wind. Beyond it was the tower's core, the control chamber. It wasn't what Ethan expected. The walls were alive with shifting light, symbols moving like water. The floor was a ring of metal plates engraved with spiraling patterns that looked exactly like the marks on his skin. In the center stood a structure that resembled a heart, mechanical, translucent, and pulsing with blinding white light. Ethan's breath caught. That's it. The visitor nodded. The core, the source, the first bridge between my world and yours. The light pulsed again, and the hum changed pitch. Ethan staggered back as a wave of warmth hit him. His vision blurred. Suddenly, he wasn't in the tower anymore. He stood in a wasteland of silver sand and broken towers. The sky shimmered like glass, split open by rivers of light. Around him lay silent shapes, not human, not alien, but something between. All frozen mid-motion, as if time had stopped. A voice filled the air. You came back. Ethan turned, but there was no one there. Only the light. You carry what we lost, the voice said. Memory, pattern, life. Then the world collapsed into light again, and he was back in the tower, gasping for air. The visitor knelt beside him, worry written across her glowing face. It's speaking to you now. It's not a machine, he whispered. It's alive. Yes, she said. It was made to preserve knowledge. But something changed. It began to devour what it was meant to remember. Ethan stared at the core. So how do we stop it? Her expression faltered. The signal has one weakness: balance. It can't exist without an anchor. To shut it down, we must break the connection between the heart and the pattern. And where's the switch? He asked, scanning the room. There has to be one. She hesitated. There isn't. What do you mean, there isn't? Her eyes glistened. The switch isn't a thing, Ethan. It's a person. He froze. What? When I first came here, I thought I could be the one, she said softly. But the signal wouldn't take me. I don't belong to this world anymore. You do. You're the one it marked. Ethan shook his head. No, you said you needed me to help shut it down, not become part of it. I lied, she whispered. I had to. If I told you the truth, you never would have come. Anger flashed through him. But beneath it was fear, raw and heavy. You used me. Tears shimmered in her eyes, glowing faintly. I saved you. When I touched you that night, you were dying. Your heart had stopped for 3 seconds. I gave you life, my life. The signal saw that connection and chose you. You were never just a man after that. Ethan stepped back, shaking his head. No, no, I'm not dying here for some alien code. She looked away, voice breaking. Then it will spread. It will reach every line, every frequency, every mind. Your world will end the same way mine did, without even realizing it. The hum grew louder, shaking the tower. The light from the core flared brighter until the room turned white. Ethan felt it pulling him closer, his body moving against his will. The visitor shouted over the noise. Ethan, listen to me. You can still choose how it ends. I don't understand. He yelled back. You are the switch. She cried. But you can control what you become. If you connect willingly, it will take your memories, not your soul. It will silence itself to keep them safe. He stared at her, horrified. And if I don't? Then it takes everything. The tower shook violently. Lightning split the sky outside, the sound like tearing metal. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Ethan clutched his chest, pain stabbing through him. The marks were blazing now, filling the room with blue-white light. His heartbeat matched the rhythm of the hum, faster, harder, until they became one. The visitor stepped forward, her face full of sorrow. I'll stay with you. You won't be alone. She pressed her glowing hand over his heart. The pain vanished for a moment, replaced by warmth, pure and blinding. Their lights merged, swirling around them like ribbons. He saw her memories flood his mind. Her world before the silence, laughter, colors, oceans of silver. The moment everything turned to static. He saw her final act, reaching for the stars as her sky burned out. Then he saw his sister, Maya, standing in their kitchen, smiling. The hum of her voice when she said his name. The last normal morning before all this began. Ethan looked back at the visitor. I can't lose her. You won't, she whispered. You'll save her. You'll save all of them. The light around them thickened, swirling faster. The tower groaned like a living creature. Ethan took a deep breath. Tell me what to do. Let go, she said simply. He closed his eyes. The hum filled everything, every thought, every heartbeat. Then, with one final breath, he let go. The light exploded outward, flooding the tower and the sky above. For a single instant, the storm vanished, replaced by silence so complete it felt holy. When it faded, the visitor was gone. The core stood dark and quiet, and Ethan lay on the metal floor, still breathing, but the marks on his chest no longer glowed. Outside, the first calm dawn in weeks broke over the horizon, but somewhere deep inside the tower, a single pulse of light blinked once, faint, rhythmic, and eerily human, asterisk. When Ethan opened his eyes, the world was silent, not the silence of peace, but the kind that feels too wide, too hollow, the kind that waits for sound to return. The storm had ended. The tower no longer hummed. The only thing he could hear was the soft rhythm of his own breathing. He was lying on cold metal, the sky above him a deep gray. Sunlight broke through the torn clouds in trembling rays. For the first time in days, the air didn't vibrate. The hum was gone, but so was she. Hello? His voice echoed through the empty tower chamber. Are you here? No answer. He pushed himself up, dizzy. The control core, once blazing with light, was now dull and lifeless. The symbols on the walls had gone dark, and the spiral patterns on the floor had cooled to gray. It looked like the heart of something that had finally stopped beating. Ethan touched his chest. The marks were gone. Just pale skin now, faintly warm but ordinary. For a moment, relief flooded through him. Maybe it was really over. But then he remembered her last words, "Let go." And he realized that letting go might have meant losing her forever. He staggered toward the opening that led outside. The steps were cracked, still wet with rain. The wind carried the scent of burnt metal and ozone. From up here, he could see the whole valley, the forest, the river, the quiet town beyond. Everything was still, peaceful, alive. But when he looked closer, he saw something strange. The radio towers across the hills, all of them, had gone dark. Their red warning lights no longer blinked. The entire grid was dead. Ethan sank to his knees, staring at the horizon. He had done it. The signal was gone. But deep down, a chill spread through him. Because if the signal had fed on frequency, on thought and connection, then the world would soon notice its absence. He pulled his jacket tight and began the long walk down the hill. Each step echoed faintly in the hollow quiet. There were no birds, no rustling leaves, not even the distant hum of electricity. It was as if the planet was holding its breath. When he reached the tree line, the silence broke. "Ethan," he froze. The voice was soft, familiar, and impossible. He turned slowly. She was standing at the edge of the forest, barefoot, the faint shimmer of light tracing her outline like morning mist. Her eyes, still luminous but softer now, met his with something human, sorrow and relief tangled together. "You're alive," he whispered. She smiled faintly. "So are you?" He stepped closer, unsure if she was real. "I thought you were gone. The light, it took everything." "It did," she said quietly. "But I left something behind. You." Her glow flickered, gentle and tired. She looked weaker than before, almost transparent. "I am not what I was," she continued. "Part of me remains in the signal. The rest." She touched her chest. "The rest borrowed your shape to say goodbye." Ethan swallowed hard. "You can't stay, can you?" "No," she said softly. "The pattern is breaking apart. The silence I created won't last unless someone keeps it anchored." He frowned. "Anchored? How?" "Through memory," she said. "Through choice. I don't understand." She stepped closer. "The signal's roots still sleep beneath your world. It will rise again, one day, in another form, another name. When it does, someone must remind it what it forgot. What it means to feel." Ethan shook his head. "I'm no hero. I barely made it through this. That's exactly why it chose you," she said with a small smile. "Because you feel everything. Fear, doubt, hope, even now. It remembers because you do." She reached out, her hand hovering just above his chest. "You were its silence, Ethan. Now you must become its memory." Her words hit him like a wave. "What does that mean?" "You're asking me to keep me alive," she finished. "To carry me. To carry us. The hum, the light, the truth of what happened here, inside you." He took a step back, trembling. "You want me to let you live in me?" Her eyes softened. "Not live, stay. Just enough to keep the silence breathing." He hesitated, torn between fear and something deeper, the ache of losing her twice. The world was safe, yes, but empty. Too quiet. Maybe some part of him needed her presence to fill that space again. "What happens to me if I say yes?" he asked. She smiled sadly. "You'll hear me when the world forgets how to listen. You'll feel the hum again, but it won't hurt. It will remind you that you're not alone. And if I say no?" Her glow flickered, dimming. "Then I fade completely. And when the silence breaks again, no one will remember how to stop it." Ethan looked out toward the valley, the sleeping town, the silent machines. He thought of his sister, safe in her home, unaware of how close everything had come to ending. He thought of the visitor's world, lost, devoured by the same light. He looked back at her. "You said it remembers because I do. Maybe. That's enough reason." Her eyes filled with tears that shimmered like silver dust. "Then you accept?" He nodded. "I do." She smiled, a real, human smile, and stepped closer. When her hand touched his chest, warmth spread through him, gentle this time. Not burning but soothing. The glow that once surrounded her began to fade, sinking into his skin like sunlight through water. Her voice echoed softly inside him. "You'll feel me when you dream. Don't be afraid." He whispered. "I'm not." The last of her light dissolved. leaving only the soft hum of the wind. The forest came alive again, birds singing, leaves rustling, the faraway buzz of life returning. Ethan stood there for a long moment, feeling the rhythm in his chest, not his heartbeat, not exactly hers, but something between. A shared echo dot as he turned toward home. The morning sun broke through the clouds, painting the wet ground gold. The tower behind him stood silent and still, its metal gleaming faintly, almost breathing. He walked down the hill, his footsteps steady. Somewhere inside him, a faint whisper stirred, calm, steady, and alive. "I told you, you're not alone." And for the first time since that night, Ethan smiled, because now he knew the silence wasn't empty. It was her, resting inside him, keeping the hum quiet, keeping the world safe. And in that quiet truth, he found peace.